Hey folks, it's Wade the Shoe Dog. Happy Friday. I got a big smile out of my face because it's Friday. Um, when I say Friday, I mean Friday, March 27, 2026. Okay. So the title of this video is called, Phase 1 War on Sneakers. So here we are. I'm not a geopolitical expert. When it comes to why oil prices are high, that's a whole different channel. But as a shoemaker, um, oil prices are critical to what we do because most of the shoe parts in a modern athletic shoe are plastic, right? And plastic comes from petroleum. The petroleum that's available to our manufacturers in the Far East comes through the Straits of Hormuz, and that's just a fact of it. We've been in this position before. Uh, Being an old shoe dog, I was doing major price negotiations for a major brand in 2008 when this happened the first time, and that gives me a little bit of authority because we've been here before, right? And we've seen what happens when oil spikes and how it affects shoes. I've been on the front line of that. Again, here we are, not quite 20 years later, doing the same thing. So, uh, I don't know if you remember, but just as the economy was roaring in '07, '08, uh, the demand for oil and plastics and all those materials spiked, and the global supply had a hard time catching up. Um, and oil went from whatever mid 80s 90 and spiked at $150 a barrel, and that was in the summer of '08. And what that meant to me at the time, because I was the development manager and I was in charge of negotiating prices, what that meant to me was that when we were developing new prices, nobody knew what was going to happen to the oil price. So you had your new prices were based on that cost of energy and cost of oil. But what it also meant was that shoe prices that had already been negotiated went up a couple of bucks, in fact. And why is that? You say, wait, how much is petrochemical and petroleum based in our shoe production? Well, I'm about to show you, and the answer is a lot. Okay, so first of all, we're gonna go back to what our modern shoe is made out of and what's in it. So here you can see we're talking about plastic parts for shoes. So what's plastic? Technically speaking, our shoes are almost 100% plastic, right? Petroleum based plastic. So obviously foam, right? Injection EVA, the precursor chemicals, the ethylene, the vinyl acetate, all that stuff is petroleum based. And if you look at a shoe like this one, the airbag, the injection mold, the fibers to weave the fabric, nylon, polyester, those are all plastic. So when that crude oil gets taken to the refineries in Asia and they break it down into its various components, gasoline, naphtha, and they also put it into a machine called a cracker. And a cracker breaks it down into those separate molecules, ethylene, right, which is a polypropylene, right? Those per, precursor chemicals go into all types of plastic, and it just goes up the chain. And so what happens, of course, is that when oil prices get high and or demand gets short, the major plastic manufacturers will turn off their cracking units. So it's not it's not like a slight taper. It's when one of those giant plastics processing precursor factories closes, each one of those cracking towers is worth maybe 5% of the plastic output of Singapore, for example, right? So when they turn those off, it's a noticeable difference in the supply of those precursor chemicals if the material is not available, or if that material has to go to jet fuel instead of shoe components. So look at this shoe right here, this LeBron. Almost everything's plastic. If you look inside this Nike running shoe, those foam parts, right? Plastic, 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 right? The upper is plastic, the foam is made out of plastic. Now, it's plastic in all its different forms, of course. But, and you say, hey, wait, you've got a little dot there on the rubber part. Well, rubber is a mix of natural latex, great, but also there's synthetic compounds to make rubber more durable and more flexible. Those synthetic compounds come from petroleum based things. So if you imagine the high heel of a shoe is all plastic, airbags plastic, injection molded plastic, 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 plastic. I mean, basically almost everything in a modern shoe is made out of plastic. Okay, so that's what goes into the shoe. Now, of course, the energy to operate the machinery. Where do you think that comes from? Whether, okay, some solar, great, electric, awesome. China has coal-powered electricity, so for the energy input, maybe not as affected. But the chemical requirements to make a shoe are almost all petrochemical. And you say, wait, what? My shoe is cotton and leather. Okay, well, remember, one of the other items that's in short supply now is urea, which is a component of fertilizer. So cotton, you grow with fertilizer. So cotton output may be reduced, makes cotton more expensive. Okay. Um, the other thing, of course, is leather, right? Does leather have petroleum in it? There are chemicals in tanning that have some precursors that come from petroleum based compounds. Um, but it's the transportation. And that's kind of what we're getting to next is if you look at a if you look at the supply chain for footwear, these materials get moved around from everywhere, right? So if you look at, well, let's go back up here and look at your raw material suppliers. Okay, they're gonna get the precursor chemicals and they're gonna use it to make their item, whether it's mesh or foam or whatever. They have to bring those materials in, so there's a transport cost. So not only the raw material cost, but the transport cost. Transport for heavy vehicles is diesel fuel worldwide. So if the cost of diesel doubles, then the cost of the transport to get that material to the subcontractor doubles. To get that material from the subcontractor into the shoe factory, that now doubled. The cost of getting those finished shoes on the truck to the harbor is increased. Uh, the fuel for those cargo ships to bring the shoes from China, Vietnam, Indonesia to the United States or to Europe, right? It's all bunker fuel, which is petroleum based. Now, um, I understand that if things get really tight, airplanes will cut back on flights to the Far East because if there's no fuel to fill up, you can't send an airplane there. Now, that's extreme. We'll see where we are in a few months if there's really that kind of a shortage. Boats, I'm not sure how I know the fuel is going to be more expensive. Now, the question of availability is another thing. Who knows? So that could affect shipping rates and sailing times. And that's another thing people don't always think about, which is if your vessel is not sailing at the time you want it, that doesn't help you get your footwear to market. Now, so these are all the transportation inputs. Now, this is sort of a simple diagram. Now, if you imagine a fully integrated supply chain for getting the shoes to your customers, your distribution chain, then again, there's a massive input for petrochemical that will raise the price of a shoe. So, raw material cost increases, transportation cost increases, um, energy input cost increases. So, again, we're going to see it. Now, here's the thing um, a lot of countries have petroleum stockpiled. China has 1.25 billion barrels worth. So they might not see the increase right away, but if this thing goes on, and actually from what I understand, folks, it's going to go on because some of that oil producing infrastructure is already damaged. And if you think about the market for repair equipment, right? The market exists to supply refineries with equipment and build new ones. but nobody's counting on a bunch of that infrastructure getting destroyed. So the capacity to repair it comes at the expense of new or maintenance. So again, this stuff's not going to get fixed very quickly. So we are going to see more expensive footwear. That's the fact of it. Um, which cuts brings me back to why it's important for us as shoemakers to understand that this is going to happen. Uh, is that we have things we can do. Of course, we can modify the specification of our shoe. We can there's and we have a whole course on footwear cost engineering. If you understand the cost components of your shoe, then you have a lot better chance to affecting those cost components. So you can still deliver value to your customer without just passing on a big price increase, because nobody, you know, there's no extra functional value in a shoe that's more expensive due to oil, right? It's just less value to our customer because we have to charge more for the same shoe. So we got to do our best to, again, do the most effective cost engineering. Hey, there might not be left inside your shoe to improve, but there might be some things that you could learn along the way. So um, let's um, let me get you to show you our course for this, and it's over here at shoemakersacademy.com. And if you come here to our main page with a course catalog, here it is. You'll see that we have how to select shoe materials, and this is related to, and there's creating footwear specifications. Keep going down here, and you're going to get to footwear cost engineering and how to calculate footwear costs. So these charts and tables actually come from these courses, and this is going to help you get a better understanding of what costs go into a shoe, so that when this oil thing keeps going, that we don't end up paying too much more for our shoes. So hey folks, I wish I had better news. And we'll do some more of these as it comes, because we have to look at how these petroleum products affect each part of the supply chain. The raw material stock is not as affected as rapidly as transportation materials. So your shoe factory might complain about transportation costs first, right? And here's the thing too. A lot of product managers and developers, me myself, we got to be hard about this. When we don't want to give it away, right? We want to get the best value for our customers and the most profit for our company. But when it comes to this kind of petroleum thing, there's just nothing that our subcontractors and suppliers can do, right? So we have to be understanding. And in 08, when this happened, we were getting price increases in the middle of the production season. So we already agreed upon the price, but all of a sudden the material inputs go way up. So you're going to have to expect it. And to tell a factory, no, you don't accept it, is not really that realistic. And you again, we want to be as hard-hearted as we can to make money for our customers and our company. But if your vendor goes bust, or you feel like you're going to cancel the order because they're trying to raise the price on you, we're going to have to be cooperative and understand what's happening. Because no one likes price increases. And if you accept a price increase, you do have to make an agreement with your supplier that, hey, when the price goes down, I want that old price back. And if you work with a vendor that you trust and have a good relationship with, that's the only expectation you can make, right? The prices jump up fast and float down slowly. Yeah, that's typical. But again, if you come at it with a cooperative attitude, when the price does go down, you have a better chance of getting that price reduction. So hey folks, I'm Wade the Shoe Dog. These circumstances are not fun to deal with. If you are looking for some advice, check out these courses, and you're welcome to contact me, the Shoe Dog, at Shoemakers Academy, and we can try to help you get through this. Other than that, just keep making shoes and do your best for your customers and your brands.